And welcome to your Agni guide. Taking him, of course, into the mid lane. Agni is fan-flippin'-tastic right now, so we're going to be grabbing him. 2 starter items right now are good for mid lane: Sands of Time and Conduit Gem. Both really good starter items. Honestly, I prefer the Sands of Time right now slightly on most mid laners, but it can go pretty back and forth depending on the exact mid lane, but I do prefer the Sands of Time on Agni. Grab ourselves 2 health potions, a multi-pot, as well as our beads. Agni right now, one of the stronger mid laners, a large part of that because of Spear of Desolation. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button and make sure you like and comment to help out with the algorithm gods. My YouTube guy tells me I need to start telling people to do this much because apparently I'm not very good at it. So I have to start saying it now because he told me to, and he's my boss, kind of. Anyway, what we're going to do here is we're going to grab our 2 first on Agni, and we're going to be starting at the speed buff. As a mid laner now, you're going to be starting at the speed buff, and then you're gonna make your way over towards the red buff. This is kind of the new standard start, and it is absolutely crazy in the mid lane because what's going to happen is we are going to be 1 singular creep away from level 2, and we are off to the races in the mid lane to have an absolute brawl. So right when you get to this mid lane, your goal is to clear a creep as fast as humanly possible. It looks like they actually have an Arachne on their team, and Arachne gets level 2 in the jungle, which is kind of cheeky. But it looks like she kind of played herself right there. She went for a very, very cheesy start. Oh my God! I just got Vivid Gaze out of my brain hole in the middle of my dash. That is unfortunate. So a lot just happened that we can just cover kind of all at once. Step 1, Arachne gets to throw down her spiders on the camp, which means that she actually comes into the lane at level 2. She immediately comes into lane at level 2 because her creeps will clear that whole camp by herself, which means that she can go for some really cheeky starts in the mid lane. She has a really high kill potential at level 1. We're actually pretty lucky that she died right there because Arachne's snowball right now is insane. Crazy good jungler. On top of that, we got a little bit unfreaking lucky. The Baron 1 inside of our dash. What are you gonna do? Now on the mid lane, your priority is gonna be farm, farm, farm. There is so much for you to do all the time. If you're not doing the mid wave, you should be finding something to do over in the jungle or backing to refresh your mana and your HP. But you should never be sitting around doing nothing on the mid lane right now. There is the most probably farm ever, I would say, in the history of mid right now. So you need to channel your inner farmer. You need to hear that bum 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 bum, and you need to get to farming as soon as possible. So I can go over and just kind of do the red buff. Agni actually pretty good at doing the red buff by himself. He has a lot of damage because the stupid creeps just sit right in your dash. Now, as far as Agni's ability level order, pretty easy god on the level order. You're gonna level him 4, 2, 3, 1 to max. As far as in the early game, you do grab the level 2. You do grab your 2 at level 1. You don't grab your dash anymore, and the reason why you don't grab your dash is because what you saw in the mid lane, you cannot afford to simply dash through the wave at level 1 because you will be level 1 and then you will dash into a jungler and a mid laner, and you're gonna aggro the archers, and you're gonna die. So you make sure to go ahead and get your 2 at level 1, then you get your dash at level 2. And then at level 3, you can either put a second point in your flame wave, or you can grab your first point into Noxious Fumes. If you don't grab your Noxious Fumes at level 3, you'll grab those Noxious Fumes at level 4. And then from then on out, the leveling process is easy. 4, 2, 3, and a 1. So one more thing about the start, just because it's one of the early videos here in Season 9, I just kind of want to hit on all of the starts. Right now, the most popular starts that we're seeing is solo laner starts over on his blue by himself, does blue, goes right to lane. Mid and jungle start together at speed buff, go over to the red buff. You both have your buff. You both clear those before you get to the mid lane. And then you have that crazy epic fight in the mid lane. If you feel like you are going to lose that fight in the mid lane,
an enemy has been slain.
It is viable to instead go do like an extra back harpy camp or something. You'll lose pressure in mid, and you'll lose a couple of creeps, so there will be repercussions. But if you're thinking to yourself, there's a 0% chance we win. Maybe you're a really late game mid laner and a really late game jungler, and they've got a Thanatos and I don't know, something crazy early game in mid, and you're just like, wow, we're never gonna win this. You can actually come to these back camps as well, and you'll be level 2, and you can just kind of walk patiently to lane, and it's fine. It's by far the inferior start, but it can be better oftentimes than giving up a free first blood and then getting snowballed, and then they take your back RPs, and you're like, oh, that sucks. As far as the duo side is concerned, ADC and support pretty much start over at the green buff, then they do green to purple, and then they go right to the wave after that. Pretty much the standard starts right now for everybody. If you're playing in casuals and not like in the STL or something, it could be totally different because, you know, takes a long time for new starts to catch on in any sort of casual type scene. Okay. For our standard Agni combos here, Agni kind of the classic combo god, super easy peasy. You're typically just gonna do a nice little 4-1. Your 4-1 is your bread and butter, and you are gonna be using it as much as humanly possible because the damage that it outputs is intense. If you don't have a bomb up, or if you're in range of your 2, then instead of going 4-1, you are going to go 2-1. This will proc slightly faster just by the nature of the animation and the cast time. Of course, the downside to this is the range is way less. The benefit, of course, being it goes off a little bit faster. Regardless, if you're doing 4-1, there's a good chance you're just following up with a bunch more bombs for the kill. If you're doing a 2-1, chances are you're following up with bombs after that as well. But little tidbit on Agni as well. Make sure you have your 1 set to instant cast. You know me, I'm a big quick casting boy. I find it to be the best casting mode, but Agni 1 is one of the few abilities you want on instant cast because you are always proccing it immediately after using a disability. Disability and ability. It's not like you're gonna use Agni 1 first, right? You're never just gonna be like, whoa, my 1, I need it out right now. You're only using it as a follow-up because when you follow up with the combo, you get that stun effect, plus it actually does some respectable damage when you actually get that explosion going. So make sure you do have that set over there to that quick cast. You can see why Agni right now is so scary, because Agni damage is through the absolute roof. I would say Agni has the most damage right now out of any mid laner. The increase to the mid lane builds, particularly the flat pen items, has been extremely beneficial for him. For your mid laner items, we're going to talk about a few items that you're basically always going to want to keep your eye on. So on Agni, Spear of Desolation is going to be bought on every mid laner that you play right now. Every single one of them. Doesn't matter who you're playing mid. If you're playing a mage, you're buying Spear of Desolation. It's one of the best items in Smite right now. Tons of power, tons of flat pens, and the CDR on Agni in particular is hilarious because Agni bomb cooldown is already so low. When you start to get that bonus cooldown on it, 6 seconds is basically like, hey, you get another free Agni bomb. So as long as you're getting a kill, you basically have another ult, which basically means you can get another kill, which basically means you can get another ult, which basically means you can get another kill. It is a vicious cycle for the team that does not have Agni on it.
Sight from afar.
As you can see, Agni damage is pretty good. Ow, it hurts, but I'm gonna get him. No, I didn't hit him. I'm sad I missed my bomb. That's my fault, not Agni's fault. It's okay, he's gonna die anyway. As far as your second item here, you have two choices. You're pretty much always going to go into another flat pen item, and so you have to choose between Divine Ruin and Spear of the Magus. Spear of the Magus is the better damage output item, but Divine Ruin is obviously better if the team has healing, so you have to look at their composition. They've got a Baron, an Arachne, a Chiron. They got all sorts of healing, so I am going to make sure that I grab myself a Divine Ruin instead of that Spear of the Magus here in order to get the anti-heal online. If the enemy team does have healing, and they will almost always have healing, you really don't want to be getting anti-heal any later than your second or third major item, because team fights are oftentimes right now breaking out right around that 15-minute marker. Is right around the major team fights start happening. Games are fairly short right now. Fairly short. Last year, they were right around 29 minutes on average. This year, they're about 27 minutes on average, so a couple of minutes shorter than they were in the past. Classic little Agony combo right there. Hit him with the 4-1, got another bomb that comes out, and then use that flame wave to finish it up. Keep an eye on your Agony passive. Your Agony passive is going to give you a lot of bonus damage if you will let it on Agni. Try to keep your little flame wave boy over here. You can see every 4 autos, you're going to get bonus damage on your next ability. That bonus damage comes in the form of a bleed, and it is not insignificant. If you go look at your passive, you're going to get these ticks. You're going to get 6 of those ticks. It is a lot of damage. It is a lot, and I promise you it adds up, and it will keep scaling as you get more power. So preferentially, you always want that to be going. Now, as your third item, you have a couple of options. I have I have started to really like Warlock Sash as a third item. And we're gonna get into that here in just a second. I'll come back to it. As far as your actives go on Agni, in the mid lane, actives are still pretty bland. Some other roles, solo lanes got a little bit more options on the active. Support has some good options. In the mid lane, you're still pretty much a beads and Aegis every single game kind of role. If you could get away with not getting an Aegis or something, maybe you can grab another team fight relic for your team. Especially, let's say they have like an Odin or something and I'm on Agni, so I can't get out of his cage. Well, I could get a Shell, because Shell is just like a decent active overall, and then I can turn it into the Phantom Shell. You do have options like that. It's just preferential to have those beads and to have those Aegis. They're so strong, and the upgrades for the beads, you're gonna almost always upgrade that into the beads. That gives you -3 seconds cooldown, because you start combining the -3 seconds cooldown from your temporal beads on top of the minus cooldown that you're gonna get from the Spear of Desolation. On top of that, your build is most likely gonna have 30-40% CDR. Becomes very hard to deal with mid laners with the consistent damage output that they have. Gonna go back over there and kill Gab, try to hit AMA with a little 4-1 combo for the stun. Looks like their Chiron is ulting. I'm gonna switch my targets actually over to this Chiron. Unfortunately, I dashed myself right into an Arachne, but luckily I have my saving grace Chiron, who actually kicks me slightly out of the way of Arachne. And you can see that with this Spear of Desolation, my bombs are literally coming up over and over and over and over again. As far as your Aegis Ranko, by the way, you're pretty much always going to grab yourself that Aegis of Judgment, also known as Splody Aegis. That is the one that you're going to want to have. Enemy starts diving you, you're not worried about it, you're doing damage back onto them. Just another way for mages to get out even more damage right now.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower.
Back to the Warlock stash. So Warlock stash is in a really fun spot right now. It used to be an item really throughout the entire history of Smite, where when it was meta because you got it as your very first item because you had to get it stacked, because Warlock stash has always been useless unless it was fully stacked. But that's not the case anymore. Warlock stash actually gives you nearly 100 power when you buy it outright, which is just downright good by itself, and it's a 10% pen item right when you buy it. So being able to grab as a third item, it becomes super easy to stack because you're walking around getting jungle camps, getting a farm. It's really, really easy to stack at this point. What the? Get your booty back here, Chiron. Go ahead and die for me, sir, so I can get that cooldown reset. So grabbing it as a third item is entirely viable. It's going to give you hundreds of power. It's going to give you a little bit of that nice just HP. A couple hundred HP in your build goes a long way at this point. Gonna go ahead and stun the Geb. Make sure he's not rolling out. Dash right through him. Bada bing, bada boom. And we can head over toward their red buff again. So I really like Warlocks as that third item. The reason why you don't get it earlier is because Flat Pendant's king right now. Your first two items are mid, I'm telling you. Whether you go Sand of Time or Conduit Gem, either are viable. Depends on your play style, depends on the god you're on. You're gonna get Spear of Desolation as your first item. And then you're gonna get either Divine Ruin or Spear of the Magus. Like I said, Spear of the Magus does more damage. Divine Ruin is better for your team overall, assuming that they actually have healing. And because it's Season 9, they're probably gonna have healing. For the god matchups on Agni, really the only thing on Agni that we don't like to play against is walls. Walls are the big detriment to us on Agni. Cripples are a little bit annoying, but because we've got such long range damage, if they've got somebody like an Ares, if they've got somebody like an Ardio, we should be able to do a fairly good job of keeping our distance, meaning that it shouldn't be as problematic for us compared to something like an Odin Cage, something like a Ymir Wall, Thor Wall, Kabrakan. Any of those types of abilities really mess Agni up because not being able to dash away is a problem. And as much as we can keep our distance from like an Ardio and stop her from getting in range of her cripple, we can't stop Ymir from being in range of his one because that thing is half the map and he can use it over walls and all kinds of. Gotta try to give my Horus a target here so that he can get out of this one. Also gonna throw down a regular ward over that wall. For my next item, I'm going to be grabbing Rod of Tahuti. Rod of Tahuti right now, one of my favorite items on mages. Gives out tons of power, gives you another 10% pen, which means that literally every item in this build besides our starter is giving us penetration of some form, which is nuts, by the way, and a huge part of why mages are doing so much damage. And it now has the Glyph Upgrades. So for those that don't know, glyphs are basically an additional upgrade on top of your item. So whereas items used to cap out at tier 3, now it's like a quote-unquote tier 4. And you can get another upgrade. Now, the Rod of Tahuti upgrade really isn't that important. There's 2 upgrades on it. One of the upgrades is actually really good. Unfortunately, it's really good for auto attack mages. So on your Rod of Tahuti, we're gonna go back so you can get a look at it. Attack. This rod, this nimble Rod of Tahuti, really good if you are a auto attack mage, Oleron, Freya, etc. The one on the left, Calamitous Rod, really more of a meme than anything else. It's not actually that helpful, so I wouldn't worry about ranking it up. The actual Rod of Tahuti as an item is what we're looking for. At the end of the game, if you've got the cash, go ahead and rank it up because it's better than nothing. But in general, it sends down a meteor after 1.5 seconds. It's kind of a meme on Agni too because it's an extra meteor on top of your meteors, which is kind of funny. But it's 1.5 seconds later and it's a fairly small radius. And I promise you're not going to need the extra meteor damage as long as you're running this build. They'll already be dead by the time the meteor lands. For your Agni secure combo, by the way, on an objective, it's just going to be a simple 4-2. If you Agni 4 and 2, they come out just at about the same time, which you can combine for that secure on an objective. Late game, you can expect that combo to do somewhere near 2,000 or so damage. Now we're going to back up. We're going to finish up our Sand of Time, bring it into the Pendulum of the Ages. If you had gone the Conduit gem, by the way, here, you would rank this up into the Gem of Focus, which is that gem on the right-hand side.
Attack left lane.
Gonna call out the attack left lane for my team, farthest lane away from the fire giant. So that is the lane that we want to get shoved up right now. As far as your last item slot, this is the most situational item in all mages build. You can run this exact build on every single mage, and even if it's not the exact best build on them, it is going to be one of the best builds on them, with the notable exception of transferring out that Divine Ruin for a Spear of the Magus if you don't need anti-heal, but that situation won't arise that often. This last slot, purely situational, gonna depend on the god that you're on. For Agni here, you've got a couple of different options. The two general mage items that you're gonna see picked up in this 6th slot going to be Polynomicon for big auto attack follow-ups. Doesn't make sense on Agni. And also Obshard in order to get a full 40% penetration. On Agni, though, we do have a couple of other spicy options that he utilizes better than other gods. Those being Soul Reaver and E-Staff. E-Staff if you feel like you need to be a little bit tankier and you still want some proc damage. Or the Soul Reaver if you just want straight, flat damage added to every single ability that you're casting. Agni has a lot of good options to work with. Your biggest damage output is probably going to be Soul Reaver, unless their team has a bajillion protections, in which case it's probably going to be the Obshard. Gonna go ahead and dash through and get this done on Gab, and we should be able to put this one away. As far as teammates you want to run with Agni, he doesn't need anybody to set him up because he is his own setup god. So just having a little bit of peel for you in the back line, Agni is going to output a stupid amount of damage as long as you let him. So a little bit of peel can go a long way. We actually had a Horus in the jungle who can double as peel, which is nice. Whether you've got a Ganesh or a Geb or a Capri, a Ymir, a lot of gods that can help peel for Agni. Doesn't actually need the setup. He sets up himself, so you don't have to worry about that aspect of his particular kit, guys. And that is your Agni Season 9 guide. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support and have a twitching day, y'all.